Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast, Reprogramming Your Subconscious. Now, this is kind of a follow-up to what I was talking about yesterday about the, fighting your own imprint. Because what happens is that whenever we experience anything with someone, or we watch TV or listen to people, or every single thing that we experience that's picked up by our five senses go into our subconscious. And what happens is, not just with the imprint, but just life in general. Life in general is that we pick up all this stuff and we get programmed. Let me shout out Alan Roger Curry, because he especially talks about social programming, especially with relationships. Now, I talk about it as well, maybe not using the same terms, but I've talked about it on my Deep Thought channel, because it is something deep. Because I talk about the primary forces in society that program a person's subconscious, which is religion, the education system, and also the media. In fact, the media, that's what's big. That's why they call, like, what we see on TV programs, because every single thing is a program. Like, well, we talking about, like, people be talking about recent movies, what's going on. Okay, yeah, that's one thing. But the question is, okay, what's going on with it further? Like, I can give an example. I've been watching The Watchmen. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is kind of different from the original book. It's interesting. And maybe or maybe not, I'll get into it on my Deep Thought channel. But I was like, this joint has become extremely black orientated. And, to the point, well, I'll just share this part. Just a bit of a spoiler if you don't watch it. But anytime you have the most powerful character, Dr. Manhattan, who voluntarily becomes a black man. And I was like, there's something deeper with all of this. But I'm not sure what it is. I would probably have to look into it deeper and put on a different hat instead of Romeo, or just Rom, become Professor Romuald and really look into it. But anyway, let me just focus this reprogramming your subconscious as far as what you're dealing in relationships. Because when you get imprinted, or you deal with certain women and you see certain things, that's really programming your subconscious. That's programming your subconscious. Like when you have constant negative experiences with women as a young person, that's going into your subconscious. And then as soon as you're about to, like, deal with a woman, or a woman who look a particular way, and you had a negative experience, your subconscious is like, oh no, bad thing, bad. And I'm just like, okay. And it is deep. And then it's not helped by the media. It's not help. Like, let me use the example in the black community of, the so-called shortage of good black men. And this can apply on other stuff, but that's a very prominent thing that the media was jumping on. You had churches jumping on it, and on a personal level, you have individuals like reinforcing it, peers reinforcing it. Oh, there's a shortage of good men and everything. Everybody's being affected by it. But that's programming. Wow. I hope I caught that one. Anyway. So, when you have these attitudes, it's a subconscious thing going on. It's like a lot of people, when they're doing stuff, they're asleep. They're not really conscious of what they're doing. They're not consciously saying, well, is that the truth? Is that the truth of what's going on? And because the thing about the subconscious is very neutral. It just takes in the information. It comes to a point where it can control your behavior, though, or influence your behavior, is because at some level you took in a subconscious program that say, hey, follow what we're putting in. Like sales. You get a lot of sales. They'll say, hey, buy this thing. They try and get into your subconscious. So you end up following that thing. But here's the beauty of the subconscious. yes, you have all these forces out here trying to program it. You know, you had the media, especially trying to program it. You got religious leaders, YouTube content creators programming your stuff. Hey, that's just it. Anytime you're listening to somebody else without being critical of it, boom. See, here's the thing with everything. One of the first things you want to do if you want to reprogram your subconscious is question everything. That's why I have said on my own videos, and I've said this, anybody who's listened to me for a while said, hey, you know what, go out there and try what I'm saying. Don't just say, oh yeah, that's it, boom. Let me go check it out. And I've said that several times. I say, go find out for yourself. And you know, it's funny. No one's really come back and said this year in 20 years, nobody said, hey, Rom, you know what? I've actually applied what you're saying. It hasn't worked for me. In 20 years. 20 years of doing the relationship stuff. Because usually if they do reject something, it's usually they reject it just from hearing it. They ain't never apply it. So that's something else. But always put a critical thought. Okay, it's like, oh, okay, let me go check that out. Just say that. Just say you get some information. Say, let me look that up. Oh, okay. You know, because that's what I do all the time. So it don't go into my subconscious, or I put like a little, critical thought that goes with it. As soon as I hear it, as soon as I see some, I send a question in with it. So it's like, so in the subconscious, it's like, oh, is that the case? But then you want to get to the point where you reprogram it. So you want to explore stuff. You want to find truth. You just don't want to accept something. Like there's a lot of statistics out there, numbers and everything that people need to look into a little bit better because there's a lot of trickery with it. It's a lot of trickery. Like, you know what? I'm going to give a great example. This is going to start some stuff, but there's always this stuff about, particularly in the black community, about 80% of black women are unwed mothers and all of that, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm still looking for the actual stat. No, you have like 70 to 80% of children born to unwed mothers. But how many unwed mothers are there actually? See, they saying the babies, right? They're saying the babies. And I'm like, but you got some women out here got like multiple kids and they all counted. So it's like, and then you got some women who are married or even single who don't have kids. So it's like, okay, what's the actual number? Just think about it critically. And like I said, I'm looking for the actual number that said we counted these women, not the babies, but the women. And we know what their situation was, But that's how you have to do it. You just don't accept any information just because you hear it. So you reprogram yourself. You send something down. And then you can also look for the truth of something. Always explore the truth of something. Then send that down. Say, oh, this is it. Boom. And it can be tough sometimes because sometimes it might conflict with some programming you already have there. And it takes a while. Trust me. I'm always, because, I used to hang with a crew. They used to be on a popular message board. I'm not going to give the message board, but one of the things we said as a crew was there's no religion higher than truth. I always seek the truth of something. Always, always, always. I'm exploring. I'm asking people everything. You got to do the same thing. You got to reprogram, especially if you notice that things aren't going well in your life. If you're not making money, like you ain't making the money you think you should make, you might have the talent, but you got to reprogram what you doing not to make that money. Because there's been times in my life I was making good money, then times in my life I was struggling. Once I got to the point, I said, okay, let me deal with the subconscious reasons why I'm struggling, because apparently I had something that was able to make it. So let me see what that is, and then let me see what the problem was. I saw what the problems were. Then I started sending some like positive programs in. See, you got to send that positive thought down with you. And that, like I say, that's even bigger than just women, just life, in business, whether you're dealing with friends. If you like that type who is constantly getting screwed over by a bunch of friends or people supposed to be friends, you got to say, okay, what is it in me? What's in my subconscious that's accepting them to begin with, or even putting myself in that position? Then I got to change that. you got to you got to be conscious about it. Now, usually to reprogram it, because they say that it takes 21 days to change a habit and then 90 days to begin a lifestyle. But you got to be conscious of it. And then really, before you even get to that point, you got to be conscious. Every time something ain't working for you, you got to sit back and say, hey, what's going on? What's happening with that? Why is this happening? Question everything. If that woman ain't screaming the way you want to, behaving the way, I'll say, okay, what is it in me that even got with that woman? Or if you not making the money you think you should, life ain't treating it, it's like you getting depressed. Say, okay, why am I depressed? What am I thinking about? And then you got to consciously reprogram those thoughts. So anyway, and that's just brief. That's something I could get into deeper, probably. And like I said, I probably got some videos on my Deep Thought channel. That's mainly where something like this I would even discuss. So anyway, just really think about that. Look at your life. Think, okay, how much of this is coming from the inside? Let me deal with that. So anyway, I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.